Well, hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Tanner Machado, and I'm here with my colleague, Dr. Michelle Garcia.
Hello, everybody.
And we're in the podcast room of the Mexican American Studies Institute here at Texas A&M University-Kingsville. And once again, we're here to talk about the MSPEAL program, which is funded by the United States Department of Agriculture, and particularly their multi-scholars program that they have. And so with that, if you've seen our previous videos and or listened to its previous videos, we basically asked students at Texas A&M University-Kingsville, the current ones that are here last spring, if they could ask a veterinarian student any question, what would they ask? And so we're doing a series of these where we're basically talking to a current vet student and asking what our students here at TAMUC are wanting to know about vet school and the application process. And we're very fortunate today that we do have another alumni of Texas A&M University-Kingsville. And she has a little bit different route. In the previous ones, we've actually interviewed students that were at College Station for the veterinary program. But I'm going to introduce our star for today, and it is Gabby Roque. And so, Gabby, if you could introduce yourself and give us a brief background about who you are.
Hi, so I'm, like Dr. Machado says, I'm Gabby. I am a second-year vet student at Mississippi State College of Veterinary Medicine. I did my undergrad at a very small school at Howard Payne University in Brownwood, Texas, and then I went ahead and got my master's at Texas A&M Kingsville.
Where she graduated as my student.
Absolutely. So,
oh, yes.
So we had you know, because one of the questions that the students asked was like, what degrees did you have prior to applying? So you had your undergrad, and what'd you get your undergrad in?
I got my undergrad in biology, and I emphasized a little bit in genetics. I took more genetics course in my undergrad.
For sure, because that's one route that students can go through for vet schools, go through biology. And so you did an undergrad in biology, and then you came to Kingsville, and you pursued what?
I just pursued in just your general animal science. I didn't do your research or anything. I just did strictly the courses only at Kingsville.
Absolutely. And Garcia was definitely, Dr. Garcia was a mentor of yours, and we do agree. And so how did you get to Mississippi State?
Well, that's interesting because Mississippi State wasn't on my radar when I was applying to vet school. It was actually one of the last schools I applied to. I wanted to go to Oklahoma State, but I realized they needed the GRE and I wasn't going to take the GRE. So I was like, well, let me find a substitute. And I was like, Mississippi State's a little close. Let me go ahead and just pull it in. And as soon as I applied and did everything, I started looking into it. And their program's just so unique that it's not a general 3-in-1 program. It's a 2-in-2 program. So I get 2 years of just the textbooks, the studying, all that. And then I get an extra year in clinicals. So I get 2 years of clinicals instead of 1. And I think that's a very unique thing, especially since I'm more of a hands-on learner anyways. So to get that extra year of clinical is amazing. So I'm really glad that I ended up here in Mississippi State.
And I do want to add too, Gabby's the second one of mine that got a master's that's at Mississippi. Alexander Calderon was also there.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think, Gabby, you got a chance to meet her too, right?
Yeah, I actually got to meet her my first year, and then I have seen her from time to time down in clinics sometimes when I go and do some shadowing and stuff like that. So I do see her from time to time, and it's fun to kind of know that I have someone that came from the same background at Texas A&M Kingsville, because honestly, I think it's just us two from the Kingsville school. So it's kind of nice to have that.
Yeah, I thought that would be.
Yeah, and one thing that we maybe should do, Garcia, is provide a list of where we actually have students in the past, where they have gone to vet schools, because
Yeah.
we've had it not, just not solely up in College Station. So we've had Mississippi State, Tuskegee,
I've got it. I've got
Ross.
it.
We should make that available
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
students.
yeah. I can put that. I've got it compiled every year. And some students we lose track of a little bit, but we usually end up finding out from some of our colleagues. So yeah, I can put that together and make it available. Absolutely.
And so one of the questions the students did ask, and you kind of basically answered this, right, was how did you choose or narrow down which vet schools that you wanted to apply? And I can relate to the whole GRE not wanting to do and that choose your route to go. For part of my selection of undergrad was I was going out of state, and a lot of times they had foreign language that I needed to do, and I found a school that didn't require the foreign language, and that's where I went to school. Minus other reasons. It tipped the scale.
Yeah. I will never talk about why I applied to where I went. No way.
So,
Yeah.
So we do want to hear more from you, and a couple other questions. One I'll move in that a student did ask, and you said that you are more of a hands-on learner, and that's why you chose Mississippi State and not, a little bit less of the textbook. And so one of the questions, and I think this is a good question to ask, and it does revolve around textbooks, but how's the math part of being a vet? That's the question from one of the students.
The math part.
Yeah.
That's so funny to say because I just took a 20-question quiz of just strictly math calculations.
They'll never get away from it, ever.
No. So it's funny because one of my friends too were studying and she was like, why did I choose this degree? I am not a math genius. But so yes, your math is going to follow you. You have to do drug calculations, and a lot of our arguments as students can get so frustrated. It's like we can look at plums or we can look it up on the internet to see the dosage. But honestly, if you don't have internet, that's like in that point in time in emergency settings, you're going to have to understand and know how to do it by hand when you're doing drug calculations, especially when you're adding 3 to 4 different types of drug all at the same time. So I would say math is very important, but for me personally, they're not so strict about it because they understand that it's a little challenging. It's a little bit confusing. So they do take you step by step on how to convert drugs from one way to another way and then adding another drug to it. So it's baby steps, but I will say math is going to follow you for the rest of your career in this professional career.
And I think that relates to any subject. And one thing that you kind of pointed out where you said the internet portion of it, right? There's always tools to assist you when you're actually doing your vet work.
Right.
After you get out of vet school, like there's tools to assist you, but you kind of need to know where those tools are.
Yeah.
And so is there any maybe other tools that you use like throughout your coursework that maybe helps you benefit you as a student?
Yeah, so I don't know if they do it through other vet schools, but I know for Mississippi State, there's a tool called VIN, and VIN is an amazing tool, especially if you're in anatomy. It does a lot of the 3D structures and showing you different muscles and the nerves and the actions and all that. So it's really good for anatomy when you're studying for anatomy. Also, that website is all the studies and all of research components, you can all look into that. So if you have a case with a rabbit, how do you neuter a rabbit, you can go on VIN and VIN will pull up all the different type of medications you should choose, videos on how other doctors have performed the surgery. So it's a really good tool. Plums is as another tool for drug calculation. It's literally any single drug to mankind you can look up and it'll show you the adverse effects, what you can and cannot use in the species, where the dosage range and stuff like that. So there are a few resources out there that I believe that a lot of veterinarians still use to this day. And we are exposed to that, but they do try very hard to keep that at a minimal. So right now, since I'm doing surgery this year on spays and neuters, they allow us to go on VIN, and they have like a whole section of how to do spays and neuters as a surgeon and anesthetist, and also as an assistant. So when you go in there, you're not completely blindsided. So there are tools out there. You just have to find them and start and know how to use them.
That's awesome. I was also wondering, since you're kind of talking about it, and I can think of some students going, oh, it's not that bad. It's probably, it's not as hard as everybody makes it sound like. But can you give us an idea, especially in a 2-year program, because I believe you're in school all year round. You don't have a summer break. How challenging is the academics, the curriculum there at Mississippi State?
So the curriculum, I would say, is hard. I just talked to Gabe this past weekend about like everything I was going through.
Hold on.
Seems like
that's
he has
Gabe
a little.
Plottis. That's the one from the first interview, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
And he was kind of like saying, we were talking. He sounds a little bit more relaxed than I am, but overall, the 2-2 program itself is that you have 2 years to get everything in before you hit clinics, while other vet schools have basically 3 years to get everything in before they hit clinics. So the curriculum itself is a lot harder. I have 2 exams every single week, starting the 3rd week of when school starts. So we only get about, I think, 6 weeks of summer, and then we get 3 weeks in December for time off. And after that, like, you're hitting the books, you're constantly studying every single day, and it's really hard to maintain a life-work balance. And then also for the Mississippi State, and what's really unique and what a lot of people like about it is that as a sophomore, you are introduced to your basic surgeries, such as neuters and spays. So you actually get like a dog from the shelter, and you're able to perform a spay or a neuter as a surgeon, as an assistant, and as an anesthetist all year round. So by the time I get to clinics, I would already have done a spay and a neuter before I hit 3rd year.
That's nice.
And it comes with a price. I love it. I don't regret my decision. But when you have surgery week itself, you have to care for the animal from Monday through Thursday. Your surgery is either Tuesday or Wednesday, and you still have double exam week. So you're jam-packing everything. Sometimes, I think the last time I did my surgery, I was the assistant, and I had an exam Thursday, and my surgery was Tuesday, and I only had a day to study because I had an exam Monday. So it comes with a price, but it's so worth it, and we all get through it together. We all have like study guides that we try to fill out and help out. We send them out to everyone. Like, hey, this is my study guide. You want to look at it? If you don't have time, like, here it is. Or, hey, here's my Quizlet so you can study and quiz yourself. So that part is really nice to know that, like, we're all in this together. You're never going to be alone. But that's just what it comes with, too, with a 2-2 program, is that you are packing 3 years normally in a 2-year state so you can get ready for clinics. And then you have that surgery. So,
wow.
Yeah, definitely. I like to have the summers off where I have a mental break from studying when I was an undergrad, for sure, and as a basically as a PhD student too. You kind of briefly talked about this, and one student asked a question, and I think this ties in well to just what you discussed about being able to overcome things. And so here's the question. The question is, are there any aspects of vet school that frequently causes for you as a student to second guess your decision to continue pursuing veterinary medicine or to veer away from the path? Does that happen?
Ooh, good question.
Oh yes, absolutely. I think about that sometimes, especially when I'm overwhelmed. I'm like, is it worth it? Should I even be doing this? So yes, I do think about it, but at the end of the day, I have to find my purpose as in why I'm staying here. And so when I get into that mindset of second guessing myself, or really just second guessing the career and like the study and all of that, I have to find my purpose. And so most of the time I go downstairs into the clinics and I go into like the radiology department. I go into the ICU and I just sit and help out as like an assistant and just sit there. And then I soak it all up in. I'm like, oh, this is why. Like, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm going through all these challenges. It's because I want to be this doctor. I want to be like that fourth year that just solved a case, that just diagnosed the patient and that patient's going home. Like, so I think at the end of the day, in this type of profession, you just have to know your purpose. I know after my first year, I was so burnt out. I think I was done with almost 52 exams by my first year. And so I was totally burnt out, and I ended up taking, I did the VMRS, which is a vet med research scholar program. And so that took my summer away, but me going to work with animals, really monkeys, and doing research, that was my purpose. And so it drove me to continue on to get into the second year. And so now that I'm finding myself getting burnt out again, I have to sit and wonder, what is my purpose? And my purpose would be going down to the clinics, because my goal is to get to that third year. So seeing my friends that are already down there and they're killing it downstairs, I want to be that. So I think at the end of it, you just have to have a purpose to continue moving forward, because you do find yourself second guessing. Is this even worth it? Am I even enough? How am I going? Like, I'm a failure, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the main thing is to find your purpose and why, and stick to it to get you through the school year.
I would say that's probably really familiar to our PhD experience. You're going, what am I doing?
Well, I was just going to say that is actually just great life advice throughout. I mean, we all have to, we're going to be doing things sometimes that we lose track and we have to get recentered. Yeah. And that could be from like an undergrad's perspective. When you're sitting in organic chemistry and maybe you're in a semester where you don't have anything to deal with animals, right? Yeah. That you forget why you're going to school and pursuing your undergrad to become a veterinarian. Right. But then also once you become a veterinarian, you may get bogged down some days with a bunch of paperwork, and you start forgetting. You have to spend some time to recenter and remember why. Yeah. What is your purpose? Yeah. So I think that's a great life advice in general. So I do appreciate that, Gabby.
But Gabby, I was kind of curious too. I mean, you're talking about getting centered, and a lot of kids here get centered by going home. And, you've got a challenge. First you got that 2 years that you don't have much of a break. I mean, 52 tests, my goodness. And you can't just go home to Houston. So how did you end up coping with that? What did you do to, help you get through, the need for having people who know about you and care about you and are your cheerleaders in the background that you can't maybe see all the time when you need to?
So I thought I was going to be fine after, going into my first year, because I'm not that type of person that will like goes home and hangs out with family and stuff. I'm pretty independent, but I did find myself, the first few months here as a first year that I was struggling. Like, I missed my mom. I missed my dad. I just missed everyone because I am alone. I live on my own, and going through the constant studying, the stress, and everything started to build up. I think the biggest thing was surrounding myself with my friends on a daily basis, whether it was, hey, we're going to go watch a movie here at my friend Sarah's house, or, hey, I'm going to go study at the coffee shop. You're more than welcome to join. I always try to at least be with someone at least a couple days out of the week, just to know that I'm not alone in this. And I called my dad and my mom almost every other day, even for 5 minutes in the car ride. If I can just hear their voice, I would be fine for the rest of the day. So it was a little challenging, especially during stressful situations. But honestly, I just try to keep myself around friends and positive energy, especially since I don't have family and I don't get to go home, and I'm not going to be able to go home until probably the following summer. So it is challenging, but I think just trying to have those small conversations with the ones I love and the ones I want to surround myself with makes it all better at the end of the day.
So it's kind of like
So-
keeping connected. And then you said something
Yeah.
really interesting, you know, positive, focusing on the positive and not dwelling and staying down, you know. And if you found yourself there, you went to the coffee shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good.
Smart.
And we're going to spin a little bit more on the positive side here in a second, but I do want to just dovetail in a little bit on there. I just was actually reading about how, you know, you mentioned the phone calls, the connections. And so there's been some research out there that basically says like text messages versus just hearing the voice of somebody. And the data shows that when you hear the voice of someone that you are friends with or familiar with or with family, it actually, there's so much to it. And so just a phone call for 5 minutes can bring a lot of positivity to your life versus just a text to somebody.
Right. That's right.
So yeah, even if you're even alone, you know, there's always a phone call away from someone with our new technology of cell phone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I can
I
always
think
listen
a
to
phone
Gabby's
call-
rants or text messages.
think
I'm
of-
there for you, girl.
I think a phone call it's so much better than a text. I mean, for me, I don't ever look at my phone anymore when it comes to text messages because I get so many emails throughout the day. The last thing I want to do is look at a text message or read something. And so a phone call for 5 minutes is better. I think I started with me and Dr. Garcia McKenzie have a little group chat. I'm starting to like send voice memos because I just can't text anymore. I'm just like,
I noticed that.
You're gonna,
I
I was
noticed
like, you're
that.
gonna listen to me.
I like it though. I have to say I really enjoyed that when you've been sending those voice memos because it is like you're here and I was like, yeah, she wouldn't have been able to text all that out, and I actually appreciated it. So that makes sense now.
And so, you know, from a positive viewpoint and positive movement here, one of the questions is, what is one of the things you enjoy the most now that you are in the program?
Oh, that's tricky.
Or you can give multiple ones. You know,
Yeah.
just what do you enjoy about the program?
Yeah.
What I really enjoy about the program is being with other students that have the same goal as you. We all want to be doctors, but I feel with my class, we want to be the best doctors that we can be and still keep our composure. There, like some of let's see an example, like some of the first years, you know, their goals is just to get the degree versus some of the second years I hang out with. It's like, yeah, I'm going to get my degree, but I'm actually going to go specialize and do this, or I'm going to specialize and go do research because I feel like we should have more vaccines available or more different types of medication just for small animal purposes. Specialize in this field, such as being an expert in the surgery practice, because back at home, there's no one that can do these extensive surgeries. And so I feel like that's like the best thing that I have seen here at Mississippi State and just in my class, and what I look forward to every single day is to know that all of my colleagues, we all want to be the best that we can be. And that just goes a long way, regardless of the surgeries. Surgery is so much fun. It's so much fun being able to go in there hands-on doing surgery. But I feel like that's just a temporary thing. And so for just to know that I picked a really good group of colleagues that in my future years, like I'm going to be able to call them and say, hey, I have a TPLO. I don't know how to do this. Can you walk me through it? What are things that you do? And just to have that connection with them is going to be so much bigger than doing surgery back in sophomore year. You know, I just think having those connections and knowing that my class wants to be the best doctors that they can be is the best thing that I'm getting to go through second years and being able to be part of that for the next 2 years that I'm here.
I wanted to point out, too, that she said something really interesting, that it wasn't just your typical clinical medicine. She was talking about how as the students were learning, they started to think about other possibilities DVM and its application of it. I'm going to study small animal medicine. I'm going to do research on new medications. It's not just clinical practice, and you'll know as you go through the program. So that's really cool. That's really cool that you're having those experiences.
Yeah, and I have one of my friends, he is a parasitology guy. He can talk to you about parasites, about insects all day, any day. And his goal is not to be a general practitioner. It's to go work for these big government agencies and do more parasitology research and see, with the parasites, because we do have resistance happening now, and to go and research the life cycle, research different types of medications and different natural plants and stuff and what they have, and then make their own medication for parasites itself. And so that's just really unique that I just didn't know that was a option in vet med, is to do that. Yeah. And that's what he wants to do.
Yeah, and so as an undergrad, I was wanting to be a veterinarian, and I went to school at Colorado State University, and I took the opportunity to get a work-study job. I spent my first 2 years in the pathology lab in Dr. DeMartini's lab, and it was 7 veterinarians that's just doing research. And so those opportunities are there, and you get to learn a little bit more. Now, we're kind of running out a little bit out of time here, Gabby, and so I do want, this is going to be kind of wrapping up to, for you, if there's any lasting things that you want to say, because one of the questions is, if you could give yourself a piece of advice before getting into vet school, what would it be?
Yeah, that's a good one.
If I can give myself advice, honestly, continue chasing your dreams. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't make it or you can't do something. Put in the hard work, put in the extra work that's needed to get to where you want to go. And I feel like even with myself applying to vet schools, I really didn't think I was going to get in my first round. My undergrad GPA wasn't that high. I decided to change that. I needed to get my master's. Went to get my master's. My GPA was a lot higher, but overall, I was able to grow as a person. I grew in different skills such as communication, working together with other colleagues, being able to think outside of the box a little bit more. And I just felt like if it wasn't for me getting my master's, I think I would have probably failed out of that school if I got in soon after my undergrad. So I just had to put in the extra work, and the extra work was getting my master's and then applying. So I waited a few extra years, and here I am, and I'm the top 25% of my class, and I'm doing really good. But it takes a lot of work every single day. So my biggest advice is just continue, even when you fail, try harder and get to where you need to be, even if it takes you a while.
Excellent. Well, Gabby, we are now getting the countdown for us wrapping up. We greatly appreciate you giving back to the students here at Tiamook, and for all of those that are actually listening and aspiring to become veterinarians. We greatly appreciate it. So thank you, Gabby.
Yeah, thank you for
having me.
Yeah, your candid responses and just being so honest and forthright, and our students will really appreciate it. We appreciate it. So thank you. And thank you for taking the time out of your crazy schedule. I don't know how many exams you have this week. Good luck with them.
Will do. So thank you for having me.
All right, Gabby.
Thank you,
Have
Gabby.
a good evening.
And once
You
again,
too. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Once again, we do also want to thank Dr. Alberto Rodriguez for allowing us to be in this podcast room. And I really think that all of the ones that we've had interviewed, they are really opening up and giving responses that I think are very valuable to our students. So.
Yeah. And, we may say it, right? We tell them some of these things, but we're not in vet school, okay? We're not going through those experiences, although we can find some similarities with our own PhD experience. It is not the same. So I hope all of you are finding these very helpful and informative in your career path.
And so with that, well, we are done with this podcast today. And so take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.